You all see it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about the elephant in the room.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, the show's going to be free. I'm always going to appreciate your support. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet and you win. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, so do you. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I hate the bye weeks. I hate them. It's not a fan. I hate them even more. Just the fact that USC's not playing, that's enough. But when there's actually some drama going on inside the house, yeah, it makes the bye week last even longer. Kind of always looking over your shoulder, waiting for another story to break. Kind of like, this week the story broke. Miller Moss being replaced as the starting quarterback with Jaden Mayaba. And then you have the anticipation that comes along with that. You're like, all right, well, what can he do as a starter in Lincoln Riley's offense? But because of the bye week, you got to wait an extra week before you can see any of that. And because the media doesn't get to watch practice anymore, well, we never really got to, but you know where I'm going with this. Miller Moss isn't available to speak with the media this week. We spoke with Jaden after practice on Wednesday. You're watching this episode of Locked On USC on Friday, end of the week. I think it's only a matter of time before someone started stirring the pot. So no Miller Moss availability. Jaden's the starter. You're thinking, what else could happen? Well, somebody could start the story, generate a plausible story that Miller Moss is jumping into the transfer portal. The elephant in the room, right? Once you take away the starting quarterback title from somebody who is an upperclassman, and you're looking towards the future, these types of things come up. So how does something like this happen? How does a story break? The same week that Miller Moss has been replaced as the starting quarterback, all of a sudden there's news of Moss is jumping in the transfer portal, and we know where he's going. So here's how it happens. Here's how you generate a plausible story 101. If you're going to teach a class, this is how you would do it. So you have high-profile starter at School A, Miller Moss. He gets benched late in the season. The future doesn't look really bright with him going forward. You've got a stronger, a younger, more athletic quarterback who's been backing him up this year. He's now getting his chance. And then in the background, you have one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. His name rhymes with Julian Lewis, who is arriving in the winter, presumably. So you've got a redshirt junior coming back in Jaden Mayaba. He will be a redshirt junior next season. True freshman, Juju Lewis. And you're assuming, all right, well, Miller Moss, right? Maybe not. So you got the same high-profile starter, who is also a grad student, Miller. Let's say he wants to jump in the transfer portal, go to School B. School B is just craving. They are dying for a starting quarterback. Someone to take over a quarterback room for a team that loves to run the ball. Who could I be talking about? Of course, we're talking about Michigan. So that's step two. You find the best possible location for Miller Moss. Got to be Michigan. USC saw what they look like. They could have used a quarterback this year. So step three is now you have someone who is using the bye week. Somebody, using finger quotes, in the media that's floating the idea that Miller is considering Michigan as a destination before Jaden Mayaba has even taken his first snap as a starter at USC. I get it. I really do. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about it. One, Miller Moss can actually jump into the transfer portal at any time he wants. He's a grad student. He doesn't have to wait until the transfer portal officially opens. He just has to make his declaration before the end of this season. Number two, like I said, Michigan needs a quarterback desperately, badly. So you didn't have any of the local beat writers. You didn't have me breaking this news story. You didn't have Connor Morissette, who's been breaking a lot of news stories lately. No, this story came from, his name is JJ Metz. Have you ever heard of JJ Metz before? Neither have I. But he's a credentialed media member for the Miami Dolphins, and he's an insider for the Florida Atlantic University men's basketball team. Of course, that's the person who's going to have the inside information first, right? Right? Sarcasm. No. Look, I've mentioned it multiple times that USC's quarterback room this spring coming up, it's going to be pretty crowded. You know you've got Jaden Mayava. You're anticipating Julian Lewis coming in, plus Miller Moss. I'm going to say it. I don't think Miller will be at USC when spring camp starts. I want to be wrong. I really do. But if we're reading the tea leaves, common sense says Miller's time at USC is probably passed him by. You never know. You never know what's going to happen in these next 3 regular season games. Assuming everything works out the way everybody wants it to, Jaden is really successful on the field. What does that say about Miller playing as he competing for the starting job next season? Probably doesn't look really bright. But let me just say this. As of right now, today, as I'm publishing this show, okay, with still over a week to go before USC hosts Nebraska, the story is not true. JJ Metz is literally taking the obvious, the low-hanging fruit. There's no immediate plan by Miller to jump into the transfer portal, and Michigan is not the front runner right now. Makes sense. You can make the case, I just did, but that's not who Miller is. He's not going to do that now. Now, I do anticipate him eventually testing out the transfer portal without any doubt. And Michigan's an option for sure. So are a bunch of other schools. I mean, Michigan makes the most sense. Again, good academic school. Miller is a grad transfer. I think he already has his master's. So he can go get his PhD at Michigan. Literally. I guess, how awkward would it be if he chose Michigan? The Wolverines visit USC next season. Can you imagine him starting with that winged helmet on? Ooh, yeah. But what if it's not Michigan? What if Miller wants to stay in California? You got Stanford, you got Cal. Those are good academic schools. They also play football. Here's a outside the box. Well, maybe it's not outside the box thought. What if Miller pulls a Kyle Ford? Yeah. What if he goes to plays for UCLA for a year? That would suck. I like Miller Moss a lot. I might have to give him the what the hell are you doing look. First of all, like I said, Miller is not going to make the announcement at this point. He's not that guy who is going to let his emotions take over and ditch his teammates. He's just not. That's not who he is. And again, he knows that there's still the 2 rivalry games. Anything can happen. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to pull the trigger until the dust settles. With this season, he's not going to be bailing out before USC plays their last down, their 12-game regular season. I have no idea what's going to happen with the bowl game, even if they make a bowl game. But as of right now, this is fake news. Again, doesn't mean it's not going to play out this way, but there's no Miller's already in discussions and he's already jumping in the transfer portal. None of that's happened yet. Again, I think when the story broke, Athlon decided to make a story out of the tweet from JJ Metz. I think it's just, it seems like such the obvious choice, the right fit. You're just picking the lowest hanging fruit. It's not that challenging at this point to say, yeah, Michigan would be a good spot for him. A lot of good spots for him. Stanford would be a good spot for him. Al would be a good spot for him. If he can see himself wearing that baby blue, he could probably step in and be the starter at UCLA next year. Again, we're talking about it because you have to. It's the elephant in the room. You have to anticipate USC is going to be down one quarterback in the spring. We're going to talk a little bit about recruiting in the next segment. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible so you can interview those guys. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team, and they're going to do it faster, and they're going to do it for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals. That's billion with a B, professionals with a P. And that's going to make it the best place for you to hire someone. And hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact. 86% of small businesses, they get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. That makes the process even easier and even quicker. So, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockdowncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Pardon me. One of the things that comes with the bye week, and one of the positives, besides the players, getting some time to get healthy, maybe spend a little time, with whomever they're dating, spend some time with their family, get caught up with some academics, is the coaching staff. Coach Riley, his staff, they get to hit the road. They get to go check out some of the local high school football games. This time they're staying local. Their first bye week, they traveled across the country, checked out guys in Georgia, in Florida, and Tennessee, wherever they're recruiting. Now, when they go to these high school games, they can't talk to the players. That's against the rules. I mean, you might give a little wink and a "what's up," one of those types of things, but that's about it. But again, they can check in on the games, stand on the sidelines, make their presence known, let the local recruits know that they're not being ignored, contrary to some of the narratives that are out there. I can tell you where Coach Riley is going to be on Friday. So if you're watching this episode of Locked On USC to end your week, Coach Riley is going to be attending these games, at least portions of these games. So he'll check out Mater Dei. He'll head on over to St. John Bosco. He'll be over there in Upland, Treston Castro. He's also going to go attend the Oaks Christian versus Oak Hills game. And he's also going to try and get over there to see Sierra Canyon versus Servite. I don't know how he's going to do all this. Helicopter, I would imagine. Police escort. Somehow he'll get it done. By the way, if you want to get the full recruiting recap, when you're done watching this episode of Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, get on over there to wearesc.com. Scott Schrader's doing a tremendous job gathering up recruiting information as we get closer to the early signing period. So one of the things that Scott points out over there on wearesc.com, even though Lincoln Riley's heading over to Mater Dei, keep in mind, right now, USC doesn't have any players committed from the I was going to say the University of Mater Dei, but Mater Dei High School. And as far as Bosco, USC has a 2026 commit, Josh Holland. Oaks Christian, you've got big-time defensive end, rush edge, Hayden Lowe. A couple of 2026 targets you're going to find at Oaks Christian as well. You've got the safety prospect, Davon Benjamin, and you've got running back Deshaun Rideau. And then in that same game, you got Sierra Canyon and Servite. Sierra Canyon USC's got their cornerback commit, Madden Reardon. He's having a tremendous season. Tremendous season. Now, we're talking about recruiting. We're talking about USC season. How's it going? How are they coming together? Let's not be naive here, okay? Depending on how USC finishes their season, it's going to have at least some effect on how this class closes out. Right now, I think they have the number 12 class nationally, according to On3. I want to remind everybody, there's less than 30 days to go before the early signing period starts. That's why we're going to talk about recruiting a little bit more as we come down the home stretch here during the regular season. So with the 30 days left, less than 30 days, where are the concerns? What are you concerned about with USC recruiting? Obviously, the name Julian Lewis, always pops up. He's been committed since August of 2023 for over a year. And you never get that firm shutting it down from him. Well, he was supposed to go visit the University of Indiana. Apparently that trip's been canceled. That's good news. Indiana's 9-0, USC's 4-5. Now, I wonder if he shut down that trip to Indiana because of this. Houston Longstreet, one of the top local quarterback prospects, Centennial High School, Southern California. He was recently on USC's campus, very recently. And like I said, I have no idea if these two situations played a role in Juju's travel plans, but right after Tyson was on USC's campus, a couple days later, all of a sudden, Juju's not going to Bloomington, Indiana to watch a football game. With the early signing period, I think it's the first weekend of December. I will tell you this right now. I think those two things played a role with each other. Lincoln Riley is not going to play any games with his quarterback situation. He is not going to have a 2025 recruiting class without a high school quarterback part of that class. So if it's not going to be Juju, I've been talking about this since spring, if you remember, when Longstreet made a 5 a.m. spring practice visit. Nobody does that when their intent is to commit to Texas A&M just a few days later, which he did. Coach Riley is keeping Tyson in the loop. So we'll see what happens here. Right now, Smart Money says Juju's part of the class. You got others out there saying, let's keep an eye on this. Look, I get it. I get why everyone is concerned that the class is, might blow up because the team is losing games right now. And let's not be naive. There's a lot of negative recruiting going on with USC right now regarding Lincoln Riley, him keeping certain assistant coaches. But here's the thing. USC still has a proof of concept, okay? And winning still matters, don't get me wrong. As long as that proof of concept stays intact, it can cover up the shortcomings on the winning side right now. Because everybody sees how close USC is in these losses. Again, we've been talking about why, but we're not going to talk about why right now. So based off of, excuse me, a couple of different sources, they again, you can read about this over on wersc.com. Because USC has really invested into their NIL, and the coaching staff is going to remain intact, there's a good feeling around USC's program right now that they're going to be able to hold this 2025 recruiting class together. I'm just going to give you one quote. One source said this recruiting class is going to cost a lot of money. They're even overpaying with some positions. And I just hope they have the funds to get guys they need from the transfer portal. So I guess by hook or crook, USC is going to make sure that they get the guys that they have committed in this recruiting class to stay committed. We'll see what happens, with some of the maybe we'll say lower rated commits. I mentioned on an episode of Locked on USC last week that DeJuan Morris, the athlete from the state of Tennessee, he's on the outs. And the other one to keep an eye on is the offensive lineman from Alabama, Cardi Smith, who was once committed to Auburn, committed to USC, and now is playing footsies. He's flirting with Colorado. I'll tell you right now, Colorado sweetens the NIL pot. If they make him an offer that Cardi's eyes bug out, he's probably gone. Do not get me wrong. I want to close this segment with this. If you want to close this recruiting cycle with just a huge flex, if you're USC, win these final 3 games. You get some players coming in that you want to close out strong with. For instance, defensive lineman Jakeem Stewart from New Orleans. He'll be at the game. He'll be at the Coliseum when USC hosts Nebraska. What about the linebacker from J. Sarah down in San Juan Capistrano? Madden Faremo? Look, he's supposed to be at the USC game when they host Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the other team that USC is fighting for his commitment. It's a 2-team race right now. It would be great. It would be huge. It would mean a lot if USC can get Faremo to stay home. Remember last year's recruiting cycle, USC was going up against Notre Dame for Kingston Viliamuasa. You can't lose another one of the Polynesian linebackers to Notre Dame. You can't let that happen 2 years in a row. You weren't able to show Kingston Viliamu what you're capable of doing yet. Madden Faremo's seen what this defensive coaching staff can do. You got to keep him home. Win that game. That'll make a difference. That'll help. All right. Got one more segment. It's my Friday rant. It's got a little bit to do with recruiting as well. Stick around. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply, and product-specific disclosures. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. If you're part of the NFL fan base and you want to tackle the NFL action, get on over to FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and you can do it all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can now check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, and you can do a whole bunch more than that on the same page where you're going to place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. How many of you are familiar with modern day high school? If you're from Southern California, everyone's raising their hand going, I know who that is. Some of you even across the country have heard of them. Powerhouse Athletic School. Okay, it's not like an IMG Academy, but they recruit. They have great athletic programs, very stringent academics, But football, basketball, track and field, baseball, whatever, they excel at it. They invest in it. Basketball, their head coach, Gary McKnight, he's been coaching there forever. I mean, I think he's like in his 43rd, 44th year. Well, he posted a message on X the other day. Really sobering thought. And I thought about it and was like, all right, well, you know what? I see it, I can feel it, and I'm going to make the connection to college. So he posted this on X the other day. It's hard to get a scholarship now. The transfer portal has changed everything. Parents better have a plan B for their kids. That was the quote. The implication is this: getting a basketball scholarship is essentially now a thing of the past in college. Sure, you got lower tier programs you can do it with. They'll be gobbling up players. But going forward, rosters, college rosters, the elite rosters, they're going to be free agents. They're going to be transfer portal players. And you can send your thank yous to NIL. And don't forget, you're also going to be able to start getting paid by the schools once that goes into effect, which is supposed to be next year. So let's say you're, USC, UCLA, the Kentuckys, Dukes. They're going to set aside 3, 4 scholarships. The rest of those scholarships, they're going to be used on the transfer portal. 3 to 4 for the high school guys. The rest, I need experienced guys ready to play right now. And it's kind of crazy. It's really kind of crazy how the high school and college recruiting games have changed, especially in basketball. You could put together a team with the transfer portal. We're going to see what USC's team looks like this year. I mean, you got 11 transfers? But again, it's already hit the college level. This is the part I hate about college football. It's become a pay for play apparatus. You know who Dylan Stewart is? Dylan Stewart is a pay for play college football player. He's a really good one too. I'm not happy with the direction of high school and college sports. My rant is very subdued right now, but I'm not happy about the direction of college sports. You got to rein it in somehow. So Dylan Stewart, rush edge, defensive end, South Carolina, 5-star plus on On3. True freshman. He already has 5.5 sacks through 7 games. He's actually on track to break the freshman record at South Carolina set by Jadeveon Clowney. You might remember him. Really good guy, right? Really good football player. But because of the transfer portal, South Carolina right now, their collective, it's called the Garnet Trust. They have already opened up negotiations with Stewart and his camp, his advisors, just to make sure he comes back next year as a sophomore. And the negotiations right now, they're in the early stages. We're still playing his freshman season. And he's already negotiating a contract for next year. They anticipate he's going to be making somewhere close to $1.5 million. That's where we're at with college sports. That's where we're at. And again, July 1st, 2025 is the target date when universities are going to be allowed to share revenue with the athletes. Whatever that dollar amount is, whether it's 20 million, 25 million, whatever. I don't know if that's among all college athletes or if that's going to be football specific. I think that's across the athletic department. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, how that money is distributed evenly among the different programs. But what do you think about that? Are you okay with the direction that sports is going right now? I mean, what I make of it is this. How expensive is it going to be to keep your team together? Ryan Day started talking about this a couple of years ago. This was a couple years ago. He needs $13.5 million for his existing roster. This had nothing to do with the incoming players, with NIL, for the freshman class, for the transfer portal. No. He needed $13.5 million 2 years ago to keep his existing roster intact. We know inflation, how that works. Guess what? That number is probably closer to 20 million now. This is college football, college basketball. This is college sports. Am I happy that USC is part of the big conference now instead of the former Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8? Yes. Are there some regrets? Absolutely. And if you think the game is all about money now, wait a couple more years. Like I said, you're going to have a group of 64, 68 teams, the power players, the group of, whatever you're going to call them, and then you're going to have everybody else. College football is going to resemble the NFL. All right. So one day, maybe we'll recognize college football and college basketball again. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to do everything in my power to bring you the news, keep you updated, make sure USC gets to that point where, and we're talking about the money, but they're winning. So that's all anybody's going to care about. We got another week before we can talk about USC football. They play Nebraska. I'll be back next week with another 5 episodes. We'll talk about the basketball squads. Game isn't over yet. USC was leading Idaho State at halftime. Been a little bit closer than it should be. We'll see what happens. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.